What you have here is the previous script that we were working on for custom objects and how we applied a use case in a real world scenario. What I want to do now is I want to show you how to actually debug this and display as to what's going on. So debugging is a strategy that you can use in troubleshooting your programs, meaning that I don't necessarily have to wait for this script to run into completion. I can put something called breakpoints in my code. So if we look at the debug menu, you should see something called toggle breakpoint. So when I do a toggle breakpoint, let's say I do a toggle breakpoint at this line. So let's do that real quick. What's going to happen is if I start my program and I start my debugger using run continue option here, it's actually going to execute up to this point. And at this point, you can hover over variables and see what their values are. So let's do that real quick. So once I clicked on run continue, I now have this play button here and I can run the script in debug mode. So if I do that, you'll see that it's going to hit a breakpoint line, and you see on the bottom the breakpoint line that it did hit. And it tells you what line. It tells you that it hit line 18. So at this point, I can actually see the values of my variables themselves. So for example, if I hover over website app pool info, which hopefully it does, you gotta wait. You gotta give it a minute. There you go. So you will see that my website app pool info has this information, which has a name and the actual properties in them. So if we hover over this variable here, you'll see that it has the 3 properties that we added before. Right now it's in the first iteration of the loop, so you're not going to see much. Now if I wanted to continue and step through this line by line, I can go into the F10. Usually step into means that you may want to diagnose a function, and if you see a function call that you've written, it will go into that function and trace through that function. But for starters, we just want to step over our code. So I'm going to go ahead and press F10, and then you'll see that now the highlighted yellow means that that's the current line that I'm currently at. Now as I go through, you'll see now that it's going to the second iteration, and if you see that second iteration, you can actually see my array is populated with a value here. So let's try over here. Okay, so you can see the array itself has my first value. So now as I step over this, I can leave the breakpoint where it is. I can now hover over the website data, and you can see now that both my websites and the app pool has been populated. And this again is very useful when you're trying to debug a script and see what's actually going on as it executes. If I want to continue, I can just click on run continue, and then it's going to go through to completion. If you ever find yourself wanting to get rid of breakpoints, because you can put multiple breakpoints in your code, you can actually go to debug and go to remove all breakpoints, and it's just going to get rid of that. As I said before, the debugger is a very powerful tool that comes with the ISE, and it's definitely something that you should get familiar with, because as you start debugging your scripts, you can put in breakpoints in different parts of your script and go through it to see what actually is going on behind the scenes. It's especially helpful when you're going through loops, because you sometimes don't know what's going on. Okay, so that I hope enlightened you in terms of debugging a script, and I hope you are going to utilize this debugging technique for debugging your scripts. I hope to see you on the next video.